The Virtual Grip Network and Bootleg Racing League welcomes you to the Grand National Series presented by Gargamel's Kitchen for Race 5 of Season 8, live from iRacing's virtual South Boston Speedway. Hello everyone, my name's Justin Prince. Alongside the booth tonight is Devin Henry, along with our producer, Mike Yao, for this evening's action. So far, it's been an intriguing campaign to say the very least, Devin. As a result of last week's action, now J.R. Shepard has just a slim 2-point advantage after 4 races completed. It's been exciting so far. And what looked like a 6-competitor championship to start things off is already seeing 2 drivers look to break away.
Difficult when there are no drop weeks. You have to be present every single race, give your all, give your most every single race. And Matthew Thunderhorse has been the guy to give his all every single race. The only repeat winner through 4 races coming off of a victory last week. Still though, just by J.R. Shepard. And of course, you can't count out Justin Morton. You can't count out Kenny Kibbe. Only a 10-point gap from number 1 to number 4. And it's only going to get wackier, wilder, and tighter, especially coming to the tight confines of South Boston.
South Boston's going to be so intriguing turn to see how things fare out for tonight's action. Let's take the chance to talk a little bit about South Boston in turn, Devin, because this racetrack can be so exciting, especially with all those championship standing points on the line. Those points now up on screen, and currently 4 drivers separated by 10 points. Amongst those, Shepard, Thunhorst, Kibbe, and Morton. Want some of the favorites today. Keep in mind that Austin Belke may be listed there on the top of the standings. He is actually in 8th position amongst those currently. And those points totals, though, are correct for Shepard, Thunhorst on down with Morton and Kibbe right on behind in the official standings. So overall, 24 drivers have taken starts this season, recorded some points throughout the campaign. 23 points for John Hayden, the bottom of the pylon of drivers. Now, as mentioned, we're at South Boston for tonight, and South Boston Speedway is one of the original tracks of the iRacing platform, where it's had a lot of history, was one of the initial Rookie Series tracks. Your thoughts on South Boston for these machines tonight, especially with the ARCA Menards cars in the Chevrolet National Impala, Devin?
Well, it's already so tight of confines here, no matter what vehicle that you're in, but then when you come out with these ARCA Menards Series cars, they do not like any touching of any sort. If you even just have a slight little bump onto a rear bumper, it's going to spin someone around. So you have to be very, very, you have to think about your moves very, very closely, because the slightest bump, the slightest move, the slightest issue, and all of a sudden, boom, you swing someone around, and that can also collect you. And with how highly banked it is, the fact that you can use the apron to get around this track, it really makes it an even more interesting battle.
Now, drivers, keep in mind, have already found their way to the end of practice for tonight's action. We like to take the time to remind you of the title sponsor for this series, Gargamel's Kitchen. Gargamel's Kitchen is a food-grade nitrous oxide provider located in Denver, Colorado, and a proud sponsor of the Bootleg Racing League. Visit their office at 2045 South Valentia Street, or give them a call at 720-707-6178. On that note, the drivers have just wrapped up their practice session to prepare for tonight. Of note, J.R. Shepard had the fastest practice time of the session. But remember, the inversion is the big part of how things fare out for this series' starting lineups. And Jeffrey Harden, the loose lugs machine and his California Sim Club paint scheme, will start from the pole tonight. Kurt Smith starts in second this evening, with Justin Morton in the 3rd position with the invert. J.R. Shepard starts in 4th with Kenny Kibbe. Matthew Thunderhorst rounding at the top 6 again. The invert, usually top 8, does have attendance factored in. 2 drivers missed a part of that invert this week. Jason Menda and Ruben Altis in turn moved to 7th and 8th. Brian Dean and Ryan Seneker start 9th and 10th. The rest of the grid sees Joe Sagawa and Mike Allen at 11th and 12th, with Todd Liston, Bruce Pearson, 13th and 14th. Lil Jewel, Adam Shane, along with Mark Herzog, Donnie Moore, and Austin Belke starts the very back of the field after missing last round. That's a look top to bottom at your running order for today from iRacing's virtual South Boston Speedway. 1 lap until we get underway for tonight's action. The track conditions see Headers dealing with a 79-degree Fahrenheit air temp, partly cloudy skies with an 82-degree track temperature for the green flag. The wind's currently gusting at 4 miles per hour to the west. South Boston known for its wild racing in this series. With its tight confines, we're about to see which drivers can last 100 laps. It's race 5 of season 8, and it's all set to go. Green flags out, we're underway from Sobo. And a good start for Jeffrey Harden, already clear down the backstretch. Justin Morton, though, 1 second. J.R. Shepard forced to check up, though, as he tries to dive into a hole. He cuts off Jason Menda to the bottom of the racetrack. Kurt Smith, the first one, trapped up top, Devin.
Yes, has nowhere to go right now. Coming up, great finish last week, and now just trying to find some sort of lane to get to the inside. But yeah, good luck squeezing between Kenny Kibbe and J.R. Shepard. Dunderwood, he definitely wants to get down that inside lane, and man, right now it is just a difficult time to use that outside lane. Even though it is pretty cool outside, that sun still setting and still difficult to really utilize that outside lane for defense.
Looking on board now, this is from the different Path Motorsports machine. J.R. Shepard, your championship points leader. Many victories in BRL competition, many championships, and now J.R. Shepard is up to 4th. Jason Menda right on behind is also fighting, keep in mind. You see some of the scrapping in front. Kenny Kibbe amongst the biggest movers early, already up 2 positions. And looking to try and utilize the second line to get around Justin Morton, can't do so. Kibbe trying very different lines in that nocturnal gaming machine still. Of note, the top 8 or so cars have already migrated to the bottom. Outside of Kibbe, most of them are trying to stick to the yellow line here at South Boston.
Yeah, you're always going to want to hug that inside lane, hug onto it, and let yourself roll along the center of the corner. And Morton right now really putting up a feisty effort here against Jeffrey Harden. He's just doing what he can to keep that inside lane, and then of course you have to worry about everyone else behind you as well, because you do not want to get turned around.
Absolutely. Keep in mind, if you push too hard in the first 10, 15 laps or so, you really feel it by around lap 25 or 30 in these short tracks. Behind him, though, J.R. Shepard is making a dive for 3rd position. 2 former champions are now side by side right behind Justin Morton. Shepard is on the bottom. Kenny Kibbe is up top. Side by side still off the corner. Kibbe getting the pole. All while Menda is also defending Thunhorst. Side by side still right on behind Justin Morton and company. Shepard is just about clear for the battle for 3rd position. Good defense being put up by Kibbe, but it's so difficult to hold on the outside line at South Boston. You lose the bottom, go back as Kibbe now drops a spot. Jason Menda nearly filled the hole instead. Kibbe lines up. Bit of contact right behind him. Thunhorst gave a shot to the back bumper of the 45.
Boy, it's getting tight in the small confines here of South Boston. That Ford Thunderbird looks a little nicer than the older school Thunderbirds that we have in iRacing, but nonetheless, Menda is still trying to fight and stay inside that top 5. I was trying to get back to Kibbe, though, and never good at Matthew Thunhorst filling in that rearview mirror.
See some of that pressure still. Menda trying to keep up. Of note, Brian Dean has reeled in about a 1-second gap to get up to this train of cars. They had broken away by more than 2.5 seconds to Kurt Smith, but the 23 of Dean, as seen on the pylon, has now caught up to them. Kurt Smith, meanwhile, already -6, second most positions lost. Austin Belke was amongst those who had gained the most spots before a quick shuffle back now with Adam Shane. Different Path Motorsports machine, remember, did not start last week, Devin, and that hurt him in the points totals, and in turn, he's having a very hard time getting track position early.
Yeah, essentially his championship hopes are done, but did get that first career win in the Grand National Series in the season opener, and has that win to his credit now for all time in the Bootleg Racing League. But it's difficult enough to pass. And then starting outside the top 15, I think he started 19th on this race, and having to pass all the cars on these tires, it's only going to get more difficult. You can't not change your tires over these 100-lap races. Whatever rubber you start the race with is what you're going to end it on. So as you are battling through the field, the car is just going to become more and more ill-handling as the race continues.
The interesting thing is we're now approaching lap 20 this time by, and Harden has led them all so far. Harden, he's been known for tracks like at Martinsville and South Boston and a couple others for being able to defend pressure from drivers such as Morton in the short term. Now it's the matter of, can that 44 stay in front of the pack here? That grouping is 7 strong, separated by 1.7 seconds. They have nearly ran away by a full 2 seconds between Dean and Smith.
And he's really doing a great job right now, setting that pace, not really trying to get too far away and burn up that right front tire. It always, though, is a concern when you have someone who's not typically running out in front of guys like Justin Morton and J.R. Shepard to not burn up your tires. But Harden right now is doing a fantastic job keeping himself together. The Bakersfield, California guy, former BMX rider, having to figure things out on asphalt as Menda bounces off the wall. This is going to allow Dunhorse to get the inside, pick up another spot.
Dunhorse able to move up to the 5th position, up 1 from where he initially started this race. Dunhorse now has a lot of work to get up to the 14, the 98, the 9, and the 44. Speaking of work, Harden now starting to give some space for Morton to try and send it. See that up in the road. J.R. Shepard now shuffles his way up to the top. Things are getting fierce for the battle for the race lead. You see from Dunhorse's point of view, Shepard 1 second, a big diamond off the corner. He dives in hard for second.
Boy, putting up some big points here at South Boston. The 98 machine on that inside lane has the advantage over Morton.
Can he clear fully, though? It took a while for Shepard to pass by Kibbe. Morton loses a bit of ground to the apex this time, nearly slides into the door. Morton nearly to the wall. Shepard just about clear. Remember, it was Dunhorse and Shepard who had a drag race after a late race restart to battle for a win before that took door-to-door contact at the stripe to see a race winner. Shepard holds on now to 2nd position. Kenny Kibbe now tries to fall one behind and pass Morton as well.
How about these metal machines going side by side here in South Boston? Harden loves to see this in that rearview mirror for Justin Morton, using up all that rear side of the car, and he will lose that spot and now under attack once more from Dunhorse. That's the biggest concern when you're stuck in that outside lane and really heating up the tires. You don't want to overheat that right rear tire, and you'll start dirt tracking instantly and putting that car sideways.
Bit of trouble possibly in front of the Mike out with his lap traffic. He is dragging parts of his car around the racetrack. The 59 now moves up to the top of the racetrack. Allen hit the wall in the early stage of this race. He's been running 2 seconds off the pace with a crushed in right front fender causing a drag. He's able to move, getting passed by the race leaders. Jason Menda, the first one, now side by side behind Allen as well. That has cost them a lot of time and turned the top 7 group into the top 5 pack.
This just helps bunch everyone back up, but thankfully for these drivers inside of the top 5, they're all single file already. We saw Menda bump that wall earlier. Now he has slid back to that 7th position. Luckily, he has quite a gap over Kurt Smith, and how qualifying, if you will, works here in the Bootleg Racing League Grand National Series. These guys do not qualify. The grid is set off of last week's finishing order and inverts the top 8. So if you're Menda, you're not in a bad spot right now. This should be front row next week, but if you do have Kurt Smith and Ryan Seneca catch up to you, then you're going to get yourself into trouble and end up having to fall back a few spots, not just in the finishing order, but on next week's starting grid as well.
That's also critical, and keep in mind that also critical and it makes the starts. Remember, been in the pattern in cases where he's missed a few races throughout the campaigns of late. All this is while Morton has now officially been shuffled to 4th position on the pylon. Now, the second last car in the train. Everyone still has not figured out the puzzle that is passing Jeffrey Harden. One driver has had trouble. It's Mark Herzog. Herzog from 11th position is spotted on the 57. No caution, we stay green. Here's a quick glance towards what happened.
Yeah, this is just an accordion effect, Justin. Watch going into, it's either this corner or the next one. Yeah, looks to the inside here, has to check up, and the 87 gets into the rear bumper. And all of a sudden, the 57 goes around. I'm surprised no caution on that, but he was off the racing surface, down on the apron. So that is a boatload of positions lost there for the number 57 machine in Herzog. And that in and out Gargamel has to regroup way back behind the field.
Mark Herzog is now parked right in front of these race leaders as well as we fall back along with the middle of this lead group. Dean has now been pulled away from by 2 seconds exact. Jason Mendez dropped back an additional second.
This is where you start to have the cream rise to the top, right? Because we're going to have the drivers on the long runs show you exactly who's better, one, on older tires, and two, who can maintain that tire wear the longest. So this is something where you're going to start to see guys begin to falter, but these guys we see up front, Shepard, Kibbe, Morton, Thunhorse, they are the best of the best in this league. And how about Jeffrey Harden still leading the way right now?
Question is, how long can Jeffrey Harden keep this up? He has won BRL races before at tracks like Martinsville and whatnot, but this is not an easy task. Everyone's trying to change things up. Shepard trying the top line now to see what that builds up now. And this is all while Mark Herzog is fighting to keep his lead lap for now. He is, if he falls behind Harden, in the good spot for the lucky dog position too. So remember that as well. Let's these cars get ready to tackle, not just trying to find a way around Harden, but around Mark Herzog. They're almost reaching Mike Allen's car as well for a second time. There goes Herzog up to the top groove. Herzog's now in the wall. Herzog dodged just barely by Thunhorst. We stay green. 2 cars now off the lead lap. 17 still in the lead lap cycle as Harden slipping and sliding off his right rear tire now, approaching halfway. Shepard remains ever patient, waiting for his chance. He's been near the back bumper of the 44 several times. Kibbe and company have also nearly hit Shepard in the checkups. Shepard drags the wall a touch bit as Kibbe sticks it to the O-line. Trouble in front of them. Todd Liston pulls up on the racetrack, just missed by the leaders. Todd Liston's 87 car had slid around from the last car in the lead lap and was just pulling back on circuit in front of the leaders. And on board to the left of your screen before avoiding the pit wall. Here's what happened. He was fighting along with Donnie Moore prior to all this. You'll see this side-by-side fighting for a little bit. Where Liston, his right rear tire started to slip and slide a lot before he looped it around off the exit of turn 4, the apex of turn 3. Should come up in this moment or so. They were catching up to Mike Allen and company. So he passes by Allen. It's this lap in particular, the situation. This nearly caused a major problem for the race leaders. When this loop around happened, you see how loose he had been getting. Meanwhile, the battle for second is raging hard, side by side. Kibbe underneath Shepard. Side by side, Kibbe nearly clear on by the 98 machine. Justin Morton also lines up behind. They've also reeled back in Mike Allen's machine. Kibbe is clear for second. Shepard with the dive on back, forced to hit the brakes hard.
And now forced Morton to move to the outside lane there. Thunhorse takes a look to the inside for that 4th position as well. Everyone stays all lined up, but nonetheless, Kenny Kibbe is now next on the list to attack Jeffrey Harden.
Justin Mornings tried to crack the puzzle, failed. J.R. Shepard tried to crack the puzzle, failed. Can Kenny Kibbe find a way to break the puzzle and finish the puzzle? He tries to send it right into the quarter panel of Harden. Harden gives him the room. Just past halfway, Kibbe now looks for the lead. Side by side, Kibbe with the run. Kibbe is clear. New race leader, Kenny Kibbe. J.R. Shepard falls through for second. Jeffrey Harden through all that, just backing out of it immediately.
Tough for Harden now, slid back to that 5th position, and all he can do is watch these top 4.
Harden elects to give up some of the positions after the massive send from Kibbe. Things are getting hairy, though, still for second, though, it's worth noting, despite all of that. Because while everyone was trying to fight him hard, a lot of these drivers burned up their stuff, Devin. J.R. Shepard now is defending Morton Thunhorst and company. And that's going to potentially cause a lot of slipping and sliding here amongst that respective pack as a result of everyone heating up their tires to pass that 44.
Yeah, and everyone all kind of slid together, moved together. At the very least, you know, probably everyone is on the same kind of heat cycle right now, but certainly not easy, especially on this long green flag run. How much longer until that right rear really begins to kind of give out and force these drivers to be even more careful on both entry and exit the corner? Otherwise, they could really loop those cars around.
Kibbe's now built up about a half a second advantage, and you mentioned the right rears. How about this viewpoint from Shepard? He is actually about 15 degrees hanging out that rear fender through the corners right now.
You're tracking it. Not the most fun way to do it, but he's doing it regardless, so long as you can keep it straight. I guess that's the end goal, right?
This time he's nearly 25 degrees around. That time, that checks him up. Morton tries to take advantage, can't do so. And Shepard's just about lost the right rear tire completely, Devin, at this point. As the caution comes out for the first time, it's Austin Belke, the biggest mover of the race, has spun around while battling for the inversion spot with Ryan Seneker.
Take a look back and you see the always throwback Jeff Gordon machine. Seneker came off really low in that corner. Belke definitely was not expecting that. Oh man, he already went through about half the field once, and now he will be forced to do so again. That is oh so deflating and defeating. Got all the way up to that transfer spot, now has to reset, do it again, but now on really old tires and with less than 35 laps to go when we go back green, this is a benefit for everyone to cool these tires back down and kind of recompose yourself.
The VR headset tonight for Ryan Seneker 2 in the Thunder Ridge Racing machine. This time riding with the Virtual Grip Network colors and logos as well, Devin. Has a bit of damage now after that slide. He is currently in the inversion spot that would secure him the pole if he could defend. Hence why it was so important to hang on to that situation too. Not just the car, but the spot.
Yeah, exactly, because the difference between finishing 8th and 9th this week is the difference between starting 1st and 9th next week. So you have to defend for every position when you're outside the top 8. And then when you're inside the top 8, you're trying to get every spot for the points. So every position on track matters in some way, shape, or form, whether it's for this week or for next week. So that's part of what makes this series really intriguing, is you have to get it done at the highest level week in and week out, because it doesn't just affect your points position, but it affects how you begin your race next week. And Austin Belke already knows, man, I hate missing races because I do not like coming through the field like this twice.
Absolutely. Belke now back to 17th with the caution flag, getting ready. Restart in the next couple laps. Lights are still on for the time being. The lucky dog, this caution flag was Mark Herzog. Of note, Mike Allen hit for damage repair. He's 2 laps down. But the surprising part, I think, with the 59 is he didn't take a fast repair. It's worth noting, Devin, despite, well, The damage was causing part of the chassis to drag on the track the entire green flag run, and when you don't have a caution, you kind of can't fix the part that is dragging against the track surface and slowing you down by 2 seconds.
Gotta love the damage model on these ARCA cards. They're actually really cool to look at, but sometimes immensely inconvenient whenever you have that damage.
And now, drivers getting ready for the restart. 32 laps to go when we get back underway, this time by. It is Kibby, Shepard, Morton, Thunhorst, followed by Hardin, Dean, Menda, Seneca in the inversion spots. Altis and Shane, the first drivers out. Green flags out. Back racing from South Boston.
Great jump from Kibby, although the 98 hangs on to that right rear quarter panel. Shepard with the burst momentum. He's trying to go door to door into 3.
Shepard doesn't want to give this up easily. Kibby trying to clear himself. Shepard is in the wall. Shepard sends it hard. Can he hold on to it through the marbles? Yes, he can as Morton tries to dive underneath. Morton can't take advantage. He drops back single file.
That is going to go down as an astronomically underrated save there. He did not get that car back under control after he got off the wall. I cannot explain to you how difficult it is to set up for a corner while you bounce off the wall. And not only did he manage to maintain himself, but he also didn't lose another spot. So that was incredible what J.R. Shepard just did, although he probably won't tell you the same thing because he's still stuck in P2.
Morton now wiggling and going back and forth for the total downforce racing machine. Thunhorst all over the back bumper now. Now in the 9 machine. Where to go for Thunhorst though. Dean is currently up to 5th position after that start, by the way. Hardin still holds on to 6th. Ruben Altis, though, moved up into the inversion spot that would secure the pole next week for Southern National Motorsports Park after making some passes as a result of Seneca stuck on the top. So the top 4 stay single file, coming up to 26 to go, this time by Devin.
And at this point, you're just thinking out the rest of the strategy. You have to expect this race to go green the rest of the way. You cannot anticipate, well, still got anticipated, but you cannot bank on another caution coming out after that immensely long green flag run. You're thinking, how do I need to be conserving my tires right now? Where are the guys in front of me weak? Am I trying to find a new line right now? If you're someone like Morton or Shepard or Kibby, very dangerous to search on the track right now and find a better line with these older tires. I would expect Matthew Thunhorst. He's already diving in higher on entry than the rest of the guys out front. He has the space right now to really experiment and find a faster line, and everyone right now strategizing as we come closer and closer to 20 laps to go.
Keep in mind, there's still some good fighting throughout the pack as well. Take, for example, towards the back of the field, you have drivers like Mark Herzog coming off that lucky dog. Lil Jewel, who's now stuck on the top line, who's been quietly running towards the back half of the field today. And now, Donnie Moore joining the fray as well. Donnie Moore nearly slides up into the 52's door. Moore still sliding off the corner. Jewel backs out of it.
Oh boy,
the leader's still stacking up a bit.
Morton took a peek. Shepard will go ahead and defend, and Thunhorst just kind of sitting back there. How about the 23? Brian Dean is not relinquishing any space between him and the 8 of Thunhorst. Meanwhile, they're beginning to spread that gap between 5th place Dean and 6th place Hardin. So, I actually think right now Brian Dean not in a bad spot, especially if he's able to conserve these tires. But what I'm really surprised by right now, Justin, Kenny Kibby is really extending that lead. He has a 3/4 of a second gap. I'm really curious, was he able to save tires over that long green flag run, and now he's just going to flaunt them potentially to a win?
He was being fairly patient in that first half of the race, gave some space for Shepard when Shepard tried to make the pass on the 14. And now, that corner exit has been so beneficial. Keep that compared to the cars you see on screen. Shepard, he's checking up a fair bit on that corner apex or corner off. Kibby seems to be launching like a rocket off the corner compared to these 3. We're all checking each other up.
And that all comes from being able to jump back on that accelerator before everyone else is. Morton is really getting crooked in those corners still, so those tires got heated back up again. But the ability to slow down on entry and allow the car to travel by itself, coasting through the center of the corner, when you're able to get back on the throttle before everyone else, 1, that's a sign of a good turning car. And in a fixed setup series, 2, that means that you have conserved probably the best amount of tires. So that really goes to show what Kenny Kibby has been able to do to utilize this car later in a run, saving that right front tire to help it turn.
Exactly. And played very smartly by some of these drivers tonight. Set themselves up for this such situation. Kibbe, keep in mind, looking to become the 4th different winner this season. Things continue to hold station with 15 laps to go. Of note, Donnie Moore has just had to pull down to the pit lane. Now has just stopped to tow his machine. So that's one car now off the circuit. Would be the potential first DNF if Moore does not return to the circuit. All while Shepard now nearly a full second behind. They've ditched Dean as well with 14 to go.
Yeah, so right now it's just these 4 out front, or I guess Kenny Kibbe and then 3 more, because Kibbs has already picked up now nearly a 9/10 of a second advantage. And you know that Justin Morton is not going to lay off that 98's bumper if he's able to reel back up to him, and that will cause chaos for J.R. Shepard. But for now, these 3 are stuck in a miniature choo-choo train just watching Kenny Kibbe set sail in front of them.
Kibbe now that full 1 second or so. Shepard again drags the wall. All while Kurt Smith, towards the back portion of the field, is still in the midst of that wrestling match that everyone seems to be wanting to have for 14th position. It's Bruce Pearson this time, who is the defender in all this. All while Morton, at this point, you can tell it's getting impatient towards the front portion of the field, to the point where he's trying the second line to try and pry the 98 off the wall.
And you can see just how unsettled that car is on exit. Watch it come off the corner here. And you can see the rear end whip back straight. It was more minor on that one, as now the 8 has that open door and an easy picking for Dunhorse to use that. But that rear end whips off the corner. This time he really has to get out of the gas. That 9 car just is not handling well enough to utilize that outside lane. That's telling me that he has already burnt off that right rear by a considerable amount. Dunhorse easily takes away the final spot on the podium. So he has to regroup, and I don't know if Morton has the tire left to really reel back in Dunhorse, Shepard, or especially Kenny Kibbe, who now is being reeled back in by the driver of the 98.
Under 10 laps to go, 8 to go at the stripe just taken. Of note, Hardin, you're following along with now, fighting hard for a top 5 finish. One of the best runs for Hardin in the past mile or so. Adam Shane is also fighting for points, but Jason Menda, Ruben Altis wants the 8th position for the pole next week. As there goes the 23, caution is out, and this could be huge.
I don't like this, Justin. There are no green-white checkers in this league, and I think that we are not going to pass the point of no return. Taking a look back at the replay. Again, with these ARCA Menard Series machines, very incidental, minor contact, just kind of coming up off the corner, but Hardin's just insurmountable amount of contact, which seems minuscule, whips around the car in front of him, and that's how easy it is to really get someone uplifted. And there are no green-white checkers. This time by, there are 5 laps to go. Justin, I think that we might get something around a natural green-white checkered finish, but now we have the whole field stacked up.
Last time this happened, it was Evan Pasoka in the color commentary seat, Devin, and it was one of the most memorable finishes in the history of the series. Dunhorst and Shepard trading door-to-door contact coming off the final corner to see who would win. It was Shepard who took the checkered at that time here at South Boston. And now we have the chance of the potential sequel with Kibbe this time looking to defend for the lead and Shepard looking to rip away that top spot. 4 to go this time, still lights on top of the pace car. Of note, the inversion spot could also be very active because guess who's in 9th? Austin Belke.
Boy, how about the run out of the Jeff Gordon tribute driver, if you will. Always a Jeff Gordon throwback on that number 24, but Belke started this race dead last, got back up to the transfer spot, or the inversion spot rather, spun out, went back to the back again, now has an opportunity to get back up to that inversion spot. And how he won that season opening race, remember, Justin, he started on pole. So he was able to have that track position in that season opener, and then he converted that into a win. So an 8th place finish tonight would be monumental for him going to Southern National next week.
You know what else could be monumental? How this restart's taken, because it's going to be less than that natural GWC you're referring to. We're coming up to a 1-2-go shootout to decide this race.
I don't like this at all, man. This is scary. If I'm Kenny Kibbe, if I'm J.R. Shepherd, if I'm Matthew Thunderhorse, I'm like, man, I don't like this. We are going to go green and white flag at the same time, one lap shootout to decide a win at the infamous South Boston.
Can Kibbe hold on for one more lap, 0.4 miles? Or can someone like Shepherd, Thunhorst, or Morton steal it? Green and white will come out together. iRacing pace car is off. Off and away goes Kibbe. Kibbe already clear for the lead. Thunhorst times his way for second.
That's all Kibbe needed.
Can anyone get up to the 14? Thunhorst is trying it. Thunhorst sends it hard, nearly into the door of the 98. Kenny Kibbe slides. He wins at South Boston.
And for the second South Boston race in a row, it is a photo finish for J.R. Shepherd and Matthew Thunderhorse. Unfortunately for both of them, it's going to be for a second place finish, but Kenny Kibbe got a miraculous restart there, Justin, and that is all it took and all that he needed to get himself clear enough to the field to pick up tonight's win at South Boston.
A huge victory for him tonight. Kenny Kibbe takes home the first victory for him this season. Does it by 0.3 of a second at the stripe. Then it's a 2/1000ths of a second difference between second and third. Shepherd and Thunhorst, second and third this evening. Justin Morton just outside the podium positions in fourth. Jason Menda finishes in fifth, but Jeffrey Harden, Adam Shane, and Ruben Altis does hold on for eighth position. Hold on to the potential pole slot for next week. Austin Belke, ninth position. Joe Segala rounds out the top 10.
Mark Hertzog recovers for an 11th place finish. Kurt Smith in 12th. Ryan Seneker brings it home in 13th. Bruce Pearson in P14. Lowell Jewell in 15th. Brian Dean, Todd Liston, Mike Allen, and Donnie Moore round out the 19-car field here at South Boston.
A wild finish here at South Boston. With that, post-race coverage coming up in just a few moments. You're watching the Virtual Grip Network for coverage of the Bootleg Racing League and its Grand National Series presented by Gargamel's Kitchen.
This is iRacing, the world's premier online racing game. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat to experience today's newest form of competitive motorsport, virtual racing, all from your home PC. Race virtually in endorsed series from NASCAR, IndyCar, IMSA, the World of Outlaws, Aussie Supercars and more. Take on legendary circuits like Daytona, Silverstone and the Nürburgring. Join iRacing's global online racing community and get on track today at iRacing.com.
Welcome back to the Virtual Grip Network for post-race coverage of the Bootleg Racing League's Grand National Series presented by Gargamel's Kitchen. After a thrilling finish, a one-lap shootout determines your race winner tonight from South Boston. First things first, Evan. Your thoughts on how things played out tonight, because that was a dominating stretch for Kibbe, but he had to fight hard to hold on for that one-lap shootout.
And that's one of the best parts about having the inversion here in the Bootleg Racing League Grand National Series is the fact that you have to come from somewhere, maybe not in the back, but the middle of the pack. You have to pass the best of the best in the series to go out and get a win. And that's exactly what Kenny Kibbe did to pick up his fifth career Grand National Series win. And, you know, Justin, we already talked about last season, the opening part of this season, how competitive this league has been so far. And, how about 4 different winners through 5 races? This is going to be a very fun season.
Going to be a very fun season, as we talked about. And so far this season, we've seen different runners, different winners. And now we'll see how things play out. Second half run approaching quickly. But it's Kenny Kibbe who does take the checker flag tonight. Kenny Kibbe, winner at South Boston. First things first, Kenny. How difficult was it to try and take the checker flag tonight in this race?
10 out of 10 on the difficulty scale, man. This track is tough, and the competition is tougher. And we didn't have the greatest starting position because we finished second last week. And gosh, man, it's so hard to pass in these cars and managing your tires. just fighting the track all night long, and just gosh, it was grueling, but really rewarding.
What was the pressure like, by the way, during that one lap shootout, especially knowing where anything could happen with that sequence?
Yeah, I mean, my first thought there was, oh boy, here we go again. And I knew we were going to have a one-lap shootout, but I knew that I was getting good jumps on the restarts. I did it once before, but I made a mistake on the restart before, and I didn't get quite as good enough of a jump as I needed, and left the outside door open for JR, and he fought me there for a few laps. And so this time I changed up a little bit. I went just a little bit earlier than I did before, got a better jump, and luckily, by that time, JR had to worry about just keeping second at that point, and I just had to go around and finish the lap. But yeah, it was going into it. It was, you got all the really fast guys right behind you, and it's I've never won here before in these cars. It was tough.
It definitely looked tough all throughout the night, but this victory is fairly helpful in terms of trying to gain up a little bit of the ground. Championship-wise, you picked up a couple of points, Shepherd and Thunhorse. But the next race goes to Southern National. Your thoughts on Southern?
Yeah, another bull ring, another track that's tough to pass at. And again, our track position's not gonna be great there from the start, but I came here kind of dreading it too, and I don't really care for racing on this track, and didn't think it was one of my better ones, but here we are in Victory Lane, so Southern's not one of my favorite tracks either, but who knows, maybe more of the same.
Anyone you want to thank for the run tonight?
Yeah, everybody at the Bootleg Racing League for coming out, and we ran a lot of clean racing tonight at a very grueling track, so kudos to everybody. Great racing throughout the field. I also want to apologize to JR Shepherd too on that one restart. I kind of sort of cleared myself. It was really close to contact, but I was pretty aggressive coming off the corner, and he ended up getting into the wall just a little bit, but just want to apologize for that. But good racing all night. Thanks you guys at Virtual Grip Network for all the cool broadcasts. Gargamel's Kitchen for being our title sponsor, and I'm looking forward to next week.
By the way, this is your first victory, I believe, in the series since Season 5, when you won 2 races, battling with J.R. Shepherd for that year's championship. That was the season after your Season 4 title. Congratulations, Kenny.
Yep, thanks. This was hopefully this one opens the floodgates again, because we really just needed to get that win. Last week was a huge momentum boost getting second, and we're on the up and up now, so hopefully we can keep carrying this momentum.
Perfect your time. That's Kenny Kibbe, your race winner tonight from South Boston. Does it by 3/10 at the stripe. Breaks through for what was about a 2+ season when it was drowned after leading 46 laps. J.R. Shepherd came home in second tonight, and that second place came with a drag race, a near sequel, only for P2 instead, of the famous victory that he took over Thunhorse a few seasons ago. He's with Devin Henry.
Yeah, how about that flashback coming to the line? And I know that it's probably one spot short of where you wanted to be, but it's never probably very encouraging when you hear, all right, we're going to have a one-lap shootout for the win, and then you add South Boston. It makes for a very strange equation, but take me through what you were thinking on that one-lap shootout and what you did to bring home the second-place finish.
Yeah, it was just trying to hang on to your line. The outside had nothing in these cars. Once your tires were wore out, the car was very tight getting into the corner, and then it would just snap loose on you as soon as you touch the throttle. Just 10% throttle would start to kick the rear end around. So I knew that I was a sitting duck there. Thankfully, it wasn't more than one lap. I came home a second. Not too bad.
And of course, this is such a tight track, really very difficult confines. Kenny apologized in the interview about almost getting into you. You got into the wall, and with such a difficult track here, what do you find the most difficult part? You were up to the front, you kind of got slid back to the middle, you made your way back up. How difficult was it to navigate this course and keep yourself at a consistent speed?
Yeah, it's tough. This is one of those tracks that's very easy to drive, and I made the huge mistake of trying to set up the pass on Jeffrey early in the race, and didn't think that Kenny would stick his nose in there like he did, and that just kind of caught me off guard and messed me up from there because there was a whole line of cars behind him. So I overdrove the car trying to hold on to third place at that point because I knew as soon as Justin and then Matt got by that it'd be race over. So killed the tires, didn't have anything left there. That one restart I had a shot, wasn't a great one. I had a shot on the outside of him and kind of got the door closed. So that's racing here. It gets tied off the corners, and it's you just got to pay attention to it to bring it home.
But another podium finish for you guys in this number 98 team. Who do you have to thank for bringing it home back atop the podium again?
Yeah, just thanks to the Bootleg Racing League for giving us a place to race on the weekends, giving us something good to be a part of, and of course to my team, Different Path Motorsports, and really appreciate everything that you guys do on the Virtual Grip Network side. So thank you guys for doing that, and appreciate everything you do, making us look good.
Second place finish for J.R. Shepard. Congratulations here at South Boston.
Yep, thank you guys.
And tight to the line, Matthew Thunhorse can't quite grab P2, but he again will pick up another podium, Justin.
Yes, indeed. Matthew Thunhorse just a couple 1,000ths of a second behind J.R. Shepard at the stripe. Thunhorse, though, came from 6th to 3rd to take home a podium finish. Matthew now joins us here in the broadcast booth after what was an interesting race for the 8 machine. Matthew, it looked like as soon as you got past Justin Morton, it was full send mode prior to the caution. How would you describe that stretch where you tried as hard as you could to catch up and were sliding all over the track and the bottom of the track?
Oh yeah, as soon as I got around Justin, it was because I had kind of tried to learn my lessons that I hadn't learned for a couple of times, and finally got beaten in my head at Wilkesboro that you can only get what you can get, and so I knew the car was a little bit looser today. It was going to be real easy to tear that right rear up, so I tried to take care of her all night. And there at the end when I had a shot at JR, I still kind of screwed up. I was a little too hot in a 3 a couple of times and flying that rear end, but I was trying. That points picture is definitely sitting in my head there, and it was, when I saw JR up to 2nd, I'm in 6th or 5th. I'm like, oh, that's 4 points. Oh, that's not good. And then I'd see it. He fell back to 3rd, and I got up to 5th. I'm like, okay, that's 2 points. And there when that, I was trying to do everything I could just to close up that gap. And, I don't know if that caution was fortunate or ill fortunate, but I was definitely giving it everything I had because I don't want him to scurry away from me. It's the mid portion of the season. I got to keep it close to him.
You mentioned that pressure there. Can tell you this after tonight. It's a 3-point differential with you losing 1 point to Shepard. Your average finish is 3rd so far. What now is kind of going to be that approach like now for that middle portion to second half of the season, knowing how tightly contested it is? And with you being the only multi-time winner, how does that factor in as well, rather?
Well, I think the number of wins, if we get into a heat, that's the only way it really matters. As of right now, it's just points, and the way it is right now, currently the win gives you the most points, and it keeps someone from someone like Kenny, or I think Justin's also there, from being able to sneak back in at the end of this year. So it's just trying to get all the points you can, and I'm looking here at the schedule, and I think we got Southern National, Myrtle. I forget the next one. It's after that, maybe Lanier. But those next 2 weeks, I'm looking forward to, and I'm definitely just trying to keep it close. Wilkesboro was a gut punch for me. I almost thought that was me losing the championship right there, and then I was able to recover last week at 5 Flags, and I didn't have the best race tonight. I still think it was a good race, and it was a race that I took a lot of stuff and I learned from and made something of. So, I prevented the damage being too bad. I only let him get away by 1 point, so I'm still keeping it close.
Let's talk about Southern National, because it was talked about by Kenny Kivy in our bowl track, and he mentioned the track position being a critical thing for that race. How would you describe that, since, technically speaking, with you finishing 3rd, you start a couple positions ahead of Kenny Kivy?
Well, and I mean, my experience in running, especially, a lot of what was last season transfers over. I think Southern National, because I think the 2 seasons I've run it, it's basically been guys have been able to go side by side there. So I think track position is important, whereas if they're too wide, you're going to be stuck and can't really go anywhere. But I definitely think, unlike, kind of the past couple of weeks at Five Flags and here tonight at South Boston, that passing's definitely going to be a big opportunity there. And I mean, if you can make the moves and the openings are there to make them, I mean, you can really tear up the field there if you're knowing what you're doing. So I definitely think it'll be a lot racier tonight, but not so much racier, but just a different kind of feel to the race where there's going to be a lot more chances to pass and guys can really try to make that second lane work.
Anyone who want to thank for the run tonight?
Yeah, I just want to, thank Lowell and BRL. Like I always say, I enjoy doing the Saturday night, and Gargamel's Kitchen for coming on, sponsoring us, and you all at Virtual Grip, for bringing this and broadcasting this to the fans. And so, I have to say, I'm kind of getting sick of losing to JR and photo finishes at Southern Boston, but it's kind of cool to be able to go back and have everybody be able to see that. So I just want to give thanks to everybody involved in the league, and good race by the field tonight. So thanks to them as well. It was really fun to only have, I think, 2 cautions. So great race overall for everybody. So
I'm curious what episode 3 of the photo finish would be amongst you two. Let's put it that way. Congratulations on the run.
Thanks, Justin.
Matthew Thunhorst comes home in 3rd tonight. I'd like to thank him along with J.R. Shepard and Kenny Kibbe for taking the time to speak with us during post-race coverage here on the Virtual Grip Network. Now, Devin, you've heard the driver's thoughts on how things play out tonight. You gave your thoughts on how Southern Boston played out, in your opinion, a bit. But now the thoughts and points are definitely on the minds, it seems, as mentioned by Matthew Thunhorst in particular. Southern National is going to be intriguing, but the importance of keeping the consistency up is going to be also important, especially knowing how the system works and how, for example, say missing one race can be. Mike Holloway, for example, came to tonight 5th in the points, Devin. He missed this evening. He's now 14th. That's how big attendance will be as well this rest of the way.
Yeah, I mean, that's how it is. You have to attend every single race in this league. There are no drop weeks, and that goes, a lot of guys do race week to week. And so if you're not able to do it because of life stuff, then that's how it is. And it's a very simple point system. One spot is 1 point. We see it in racing series across the nation. That's how this one is. So yeah, and like they were saying, it's tough to get back in that points battle after either you miss a week or you finish outside the top 5 with just how impressive the guys up front have been. So yeah, this is how it is. That's how the series is. It's been this way for a long time, even before it did have one drop, but that was gone seasons and seasons ago. So now you have to go to Southern National and figure out, okay, what do I need to do to gain points? Well, more than likely, it's win. And even though we're only 5 races in, the answer is still going to be go out and win.
Winning definitely helps, but also making sure the times you don't win, finish up towards the front, also very valuable if you want to win a title. With that, we'd like to take one more shout out to the title sponsor for this series, Gargamel's Kitchen. Gargamel's Kitchen is a food-grade nitrous oxide provider located in Denver, Colorado, and a proud sponsor of the Bootleg Racing League. Their office at 2045 South Valentia Street, or give them a call at 720-707-6178. On that note, we'd like to take this time to thank you for tuning in for tonight's action. The next race for the BRL's Grand National Series, presented by Gargamel's Kitchen, heads to Southern National Motorsports Park. That coverage is November the 6th, starting at 8:55 p.m. Eastern Time, here on VGN. The next show on VGN is the Pro Late Model Dirt Series and the Carrier Fall Nationals. That coverage starts at 8:20 p.m. Eastern Time, November the 3rd. But with that, it's time to say goodbye. For Devin Henry, our producer tonight, Mike Yao, I'm Justin Prince. This has been a production of the Skinner Creek Motorsports Group and the Virtual Grip Network.